Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Jason.
With me today is life coach and LOA teacher Joel Elston.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
Joel, I love doing shows on Mondays because I get to do two. I mean, I have the one that I do with Anne-Marie Young, which I record 3 hours before I do this one with you. And the great benefit to that is you often comment how wonderful your Mondays are. That to me is how my Mondays are wonderful because I get to do 2 shows in one day.
That is good.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
It's an energizer. Now, today's show, the topic for today's show actually comes from my virtual assistant, the one who posts the episodes and so forth for LOA Today and takes care of, arranging guests and all that kind of stuff. She is very interested in our perspectives on gifts, meaning gifts of skills or of abilities or something along that line. She made the point in a conversation that she and I had a couple of days ago about gifts coming from God. And I made a comment about how I don't really think about it that way. I think about gifts as something that you just developed. And she says, well, I'd love to hear what Joel's perspective is. I said, okay. So that became the topic.
Okay, let's do
as
that.
usual, we have no idea where that's going to go, but hey, it's a starting point. So
yeah, it's a good starting point. So yeah, that's not. I'm glad she wanted to hear my perspective, and I do believe that we all have a unique set of gifts. I believe every single person has a gift, and I do believe, by definition, you and I talked about whatever you're feeling about God is, or the higher power, or the universe, or how all that goes together. I do believe there is something there. There's an energy, and I do believe that we are all given gifts. One of the things that I used to do lovingly as a child, it wasn't lovingly to the ants. I used to do this too, but I used to love to stir up an ant bed. And,
oh, really? You were one
yes.
of those? Okay.
And in Florida, you had these gigantic armored plated ants, basically.
Yeah.
They weren't these were gigantic bull ants,
Yeah.
And so you'd go stir it up, and one thing I was fascinated about, every single ant had a thing to do, and they knew how to do it. So I would stir it up, and there's a bunch of them that started running out in all directions to whatever the problem was. They're going to attack whatever the problem was. I was the problem. 10-year-old me was the problem. So they were looking for 10-year-old Joel to, kick his ass and all that. So, but simultaneously, a bunch of them ran into the thing and into the mound, and they I'm sure they're going to protect the queen. You see several of them would start carrying eggs out even. It was just this
really
perfectly orchestrated. And of course, I wouldn't just leave them alone. I have, they calm down, I get them going again. And more than anything, I wasn't trying to harm the ants. I didn't burn them or anything like that, like, with a magnifying glass like a lot of people used to do. But I just like to watch them, and they all knew what to do. Yeah. So from some of them were born to protect the mound. Some of them were born to protect the queen. Some were to protect the eggs. Some were there to just build the mound. And almost immediately, everybody went to where they wanted to be. And I was always fascinated by that. And so that's at a very low level. But I also believe us humans have our own individual things. And there's gifts and there's deficits and maybe not even deficits. They're just gifts, but we'll perceive a deficit. Like, I know some people that are not very good at math, but they're geniuses in other areas. I know some geniuses in math that can't find where they park their car every single day. So, there's gifts, but there's also, how we use those gifts and how they're instilled. They're really meant to be in life. One of the greatest gifts you can receive is actually discovering what your gift is, what your purpose is, what the reason for you to be here is. And I feel grateful that I feel that I've discovered that. I'm here for a reason. Everything that has led to this moment is exactly what I wanted, is exactly what I was supposed to do the entire time. So gifts they belong to us, but most people, I don't know if it's most people, several people, whatever the percentage is, that I don't know if everybody always realizes their gifts, because so many people are trying to compare their gifts to other people's gifts. Like, this may be a shock, but I will not be a professional NBA basketball player at any point in time.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
you kind of had me there. I really thought that was on your career path.
Yeah, at no point in my life would that have been a possibility. It's just not a skill set I have.
Hmm.
Uh, but I also work with a lot of NBA players and their mindset and it isn't that I can't have a role in the arena. It's just I
Mm.
can't do that. And
Yeah.
so the what happens, I think, a lot of times is everybody compares the gifts. Like some very good looking people, that wow, they look so fantastic. A lot of people say, well, I don't look as good as them, but yet that becomes sort of a measurement. Social media has added to the what matter gifts. What really matters in society is really sort of dictated by, wow, this person can sing well, this person looks fantastic, this person has a great body, great physique. All that stuff can be considered gifts, but often the comparison or between gifts creates a lot of deficits or perception of deficits in gifts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I especially like that last bit. Repeat that last bit because I think that becomes the crux of the conversation.
Right. The perception when you're looking on Instagram and you're looking at all these, perfectly made people or these people that do these great things, and then you compare your life to it, or you're like, well, I'll never look like that, or I'll never be able to do that. And then that creates that deficit. That's what creates a perception of a deficit. And in reality, you're getting a snapshot of somebody who's really good. Like if you watch somebody who's really good at any sport, but like a golfer, a pro golfer. These people practice their entire lives. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's all they do. So if you see a pro golfer hit a gigantic swing and it knocks the 400-yard drive that goes 4 feet from the hole, you're like, oh man, I could never do that. Well, this guy spent his entire lifetime doing that. So we often miss that piece. Social media sort of deletes the effort part. If you and I were to go to the gym, it's unlikely you're going to be able to deadlift 500 pounds the first time you're able to, you walk in the gym.
Guaranteed I won't be able to.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's 100%.
yeah, if you ever had a desire to do that, there's a formula we could use to get you there. But I don't think that's one of your desires. But it would be a lot of work, and we could do it in about a year and a half, if that became your sole focus. But the gifts that are presented, and this is what has really changed perceptions of gifts, because I could go on Instagram and find these just incredibly perfect looking fitness models of, and first of all, there's filters, there's a lot of other things, but nonetheless, they're very attractive people. But when the average person, a lot of my clients, they feel they fall short of the gifts. So the problem today with gifts is a belief that, not everybody's equal. And I will go on a limb and tell you this. We're not all equal in gifts.
Come on, you gave away at the ending.
Yeah, exactly. But we're definitely not all equal in gifts. My skill set, I'm good at what I do in my job. I found that, but I'm not good at. I wouldn't be able to do coding or sit at a desk and all day just stare at a computer and input data. That would be something you might as well just go ahead and shoot me. I don't have that ability, nor would I ever want to be that bored in life to do it. And the other people that make a lot of money doing that, and that's great. So gifts, and I believe that we were born that way. I sort of like that concept that we all have a reason. We're all stronger that we're here together. But lost in that is we like my friends and family. I have people that I'm very close to that I see they have kids, 3 kids, and I see all the kids. They're very different kids. They're in the same family, but they all have very unique gifts. And if you were to say, well, this one's smarter, but this one's more driven, this one has better ideas, but you often will hear them sort of express what they're perceiving they're lacking. Well, this one isn't good at math, but that one is also really determined and works really hard. The other one, who's so brilliant, has sort of my brain, like, just all over the place kind of thing. And, but they're all gifts, and that's the beauty of it. And we want to make sure that when you're identifying your gifts or you notice other people's gifts, stop at comparing. Stop at the comparison piece, because that's the road to unhappiness is comparison, where you're perceiving things are lacking. If you look at my life today, you're going to go, man, that guy's lucky. Look at all he's got, all he does. He gets to do all this great stuff. He has a great job that he loves. That's true. But there's a point along my life you'd be like, oh no, what a train wreck. What a horrible, there's no way. And that's, you don't always know where you're at in that chain, and your gifts they're always there, but it takes a while for them to be revealed sometimes.
That's an interesting perspective, and I like it. I like what you were describing there. My perspective is somewhat different on it, and I'll give you a couple of examples to illustrate. But I'm also going to kind of go on a limb and say, at the end of the day, our perspectives really aren't all that far apart. But we'll just leave that on the table for the moment, and
Okay.
we'll see where it comes out to. You mentioned the gifts being given to you and the comparisons and so forth. As you know, I'm very tall. I'm 6'8" tall. By most people's estimation, I've been given the gift of height that would enable me to play in that NBA basketball
Right.
that you were talking about.
Right.
There's only one thing that was missing from it. I didn't want it.
There you go.
Never, ever an interest. Not even
Right.
slightly. Not even a little tiny bit. You mentioned software programming. Interesting that you should mention software programming. I was literally working on a software project today. It's a project I've been working on for a number of weeks. And the thing that's really, really interesting about it is I hate programming. I really don't enjoy it, but I like the result of what I get out of it. The only reason I'm able to do it now is I can use artificial intelligence to do all the code writing for me. And then I can just tell it, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that.
Right.
That part I can handle. That part, that's okay for me. But if I
Right.
had to actually sit there and write all that code out and think it all out and figure out how all the little pieces work, I have the same reaction as you, like, oh, just shoot me now.
Yes, absolutely.
Not that I can't do it. I certainly have the ability. You could say I was given the gift of being able to understand that. I just
Right.
didn't want to use it. So to me, the biggest piece of it isn't whether or not we're giving gifts. The question for me is, are the gifts something we want to use? Is it something that we have a passion about? Something that we have a built-in drive, like, wow, not only do I have this gift, I want to do something with it. I think it's actually much more, if you were talking about the comparisons, you're right. You don't want to be comparing to what somebody else's gifts are. You do want to be comparing, in my view, to what you want to do rather than what the gifts say you should do.
Absolutely. And that's a big difference there. And I agree with you completely. I have a gift that I've mentioned on the show a few times, not often. And it is one that, I find it an interesting gift. It's a gift that I'm sort of questioning the universe's allowance of this gift to me. I am absolutely I promise you, I have never lost a game of whack-a-mole.
Really?
I am like the king of whack-a-mole.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I win prizes at the fair. I'm told you can't play anymore, kind of thing, with whack-a-mole.
Oh, you're one of those people. Okay.
I have never lost a game of whack-a-mole. Even to this day, my reflexes still, that doesn't translate to anything else though, Walt. It doesn't translate.
Not really, no.
I did a lot of research, and the professional whack-a-mole tour doesn't pay much. So it is a gift. While certainly I'm grateful to have. I keep asking, was that relevant? I mean, did I have to wait? I mean, like you're saying, I have no interest in being the best whack-a-mole player in the universe. I am. But
what's wrong with you, though, Joel? How many people will say that? What's wrong? You have this great skill. You should be using it.
Well, you see that a lot. I would imagine, being your size, your height, after a while, it gets very annoying. Say, why didn't you do this obvious thing, or what have you?
Because anybody who sees me out in public, there are three questions they have. But actually, my ex-wife, Louise, made me a T-shirt one day. The T-shirt said, answers to your questions. Number 1, 6'8". Number 2, no, I don't play basketball. Number 3, it's raining. Those are the three questions.
Yeah.
And you get them all the time. Every single time you're out there, somebody is making some reference to your height because that's your distinguishing feature.
Yes. And so, again, perceptions of gifts are also another factor, as you're saying. The perceiving a gift, you may have a gift, but it may be actually, I can see where some people say being 6'8" is a wonderful gift. And then after many years of all that, it's like, it's not a gift at all.
It can be either way. Sure.
Yeah. And so within that, we have to, all these are factors, but the individual gifts that, where they come from and how there's a combination of genetics and, and what your interests are. And there's so many things that it's what you're exposed to. I'm into neuroscience and brain health and occasional quantum theory, as you know, and
Mhm.
I'm into
Very
all
good.
that stuff. And let's not go there. But but it's I mean, I can spend last Saturday night. I have a football game on television with it muted as I'm just reading stuff about some of the updated neuroscience discoveries and the
Wow.
amazing stuff out there. And it's like,
Okay.
now that's my Saturday night. That was exciting to me, and
Mhm.
that's something I've developed. And you can go back and figure out. It isn't. I don't need this anymore for my job. It isn't like like I don't need any more certifications or understandings or any of that stuff. I still learn though all the time. I still
Mhm.
investigate. I'm still fascinated by that. So one of my gifts is, and this was late coming. It was in my 30s when I came to the love of learning, the need to learn. Now I don't want to learn stupid stuff in my perspective. I want to learn stuff I'm into,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to study, Greek mythology, at 2 a.m. In depth, but I'm certainly going to look at just the neuroconnectivity and the neuroplasticity and the effects of antidepressants or psilocybin on that. And
Mhm.
I'll read study after study and fascinated by that.
Yeah.
So the gifts we have and the gifts we perceive, they're I don't know of anyone without a gift. I try to speak to people's gifts. I try to find gifts. What I do in my coaching practice is what is working, what strengths do you have, what gifts do you have. Or is like I have a young man that I work with. He graduated law school and he passed the bar,
Mm.
and he hates law.
Mm.
So he's tried 2 or 3 times going to different firms, doing different things, and he ends up not doing it. So the problem is he's like, okay, I don't want to do law. So now when you go apply for any other job and you have a law degree,
What's wrong with you? Why aren't you doing law?
everybody asks the same question.
Mhm.
And then when he goes, I don't know what I want to do. I know it's not law. And so he goes, he goes to everybody he goes to search that question says, hey, you have a law degree. Like he forgot or something. You have a law degree.
Yeah. Dang,
Yeah.
I knew there was something.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to do law. And everybody keeps going back to, well, maybe you haven't found the right kind of law that you want
Yeah,
to do.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
and so he wastes all this time, and he obviously has a ability to learn. Passing the bar is not an easy thing to do.
No,
He
that's a
did
lot
all
of work.
that, but somehow that when he's there, the gift of learning, the gift to pass tests is all there. But he ended, and it turns out his dad was an attorney, so he
Ah,
just thought that would be the thing he wanted to do, and he's
sure.
miserable in that pursuit, and he's having a hard time finding a career because everybody's distracted by the law degree.
I'm so sympathetic to him. So completely sympathetic. That is very close to my own story. Very close. In fact, I even in college, my original plan, I was a political science and government major in college, and the reason I was majoring in that was because that is a stepping stone to becoming a person who goes to law school. It's one of the
Yes,
most common degrees for somebody going to law school.
right.
I really intended to explore the law, and then I took pre-law courses in college and hated them. And I realized that, well, I can't go that direction. Well, more to the point of what you were describing, come 2008, the financial crisis, my business falls apart and I'm confused about what to do with my life. And I'm realizing I'm doing work. What was I doing? Programming. I was building websites. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. There was nothing fun about it
Right.
at all. And it was burying me. It was digging me into the ground. And I didn't know what else to do. You may even remember the first few times we did shows together. I was trying to figure out what the hell am I going to do with my life? How am I going to turn this financial thing around? How do
I
I
see.
find what my passion is? I didn't know.
I seem to recall those
Yeah, it was
conversations.
kind of a topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like all the time.
Like every single week. Yeah.
Yeah. But what you're saying, and that's sort of where when you're looking at gifts, is there a week that goes by that we don't talk about perspective? But
Mm,
the gifts are perspective based. Other people will look at it. They'll say, "Wow, you're really good at that." Yeah, I don't like doing that. I don't
mm,
like doing it, but you're really good at that. Or
right.
I have one of my NFL players that I work with is a very well known tight end, and
Mhm.
he very successful. he literally hates playing football. He just
Really interesting.
he's played since he was 8 years old. He's
Wow.
worried about concussions, and he signed his second deal, which is usually the pretty big deal,
Right.
and
Right.
he's really contemplating. He saves all his money. He's got some great endorsement deals. He's thinking about this is his last run after this contract's up, last
Wow.
run, and
Yeah.
he will be 28 when it's over, and he's thinking about being done, and it'll shock the world when it happens because
Sure.
everybody's like, what, really?
He's on top of the world. How could he possibly do that?
Yeah, and he's like, look, I want to be able to walk with my kids when they're going to college, or walk,
Yeah.
see them walk my daughter down the aisle, and not have to be sipping out of a straw. And I'm not making fun of that. I'm just simply saying,
But credit to him for seeing that far ahead and saying, yeah, that's what I really want.
Yeah. And so even within that, so he's already contemplating the the news media will go crazy on that. What happened? All that.
Right.
And he thought about all that. He said, look, it's just more important. It's so being able to, see your gifts, also perceive either value or just realize the gifts, it's just part of who you are. Just because you're great at something doesn't mean you necessarily have to do it. But there's I see the and this is breaking up some, but in Richmond, Virginia, there's a lot of old tobacco money. There's a lot of money in Richmond.
Yep.
And old wealth. And the stereotypical path for so many of the families that I work with when I work with people locally was you go to, in Richmond, collegiate is the premier, private school for kids. You graduate collegiate, then you go to the University of Virginia. Then you go to the University of Virginia Business School or law school.
Okay.
And you come home and you work in the family practice. You just do that generationally. Yeah. And it's been over the last several years, I'm seeing a lot of the family members going, no, not doing that. And
good for them.
A lot of pushback, a lot of break. And it really is the first group. People make a lot of fun of some of the younger generation, but they're not all what they're being sold on.
I'm not what I am always in awe of the younger generation. I really
there's some awesome young people out there, and to see that happen, and they're like, well, this is what we've always done, and the kids were like, yeah, and look how it turned out. You guys are miserable. Look at this life, and they're seeing it from a different angle now, and so sometimes just the gift of saying, just because it's always been that way, it doesn't mean we have to do it, or just because I'm good at it or it runs in my family, we don't have to do it. I fell into that with my dad in the insurance agency. After when I got out of school, he's like, "Oh, you're going to come work for me in the insurance agency." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sounds all right." I mean, I knew I didn't want to do it, but it was good money, and I got a Porsche, so that was great. And but after a little while, I realized I really, really desperately hated the insurance world. It was terrible, and that. We won't do that story again, but that didn't end well for me or my dad. But
we'll just refer everybody to the bench. I mean,
read the bench and we'll explain that section. It was a horrible time in my life, but nonetheless, we still ended up in a great place. And later, before my dad passed away, he was very proud of me, and we talked about that. And he said, you certainly figured all this out, and he said, you exceeded anything I could ever imagine for you, and that was really comforting.
That's great.
Yeah, and we had great reconciliation the last several years of his life, so as well as my mom. But the just because I had the gift of access to working in the insurance agency, I never viewed that as a gift at all. It was literal torture, making me sit when I was in my early 20s behind a desk 8 hours a day. My energy. It's like
I can't really see that.
Car insurance. I want to go, nobody cares. It's car insurance. Nobody cares.
It's true. The only time anybody ever cares about car insurance is if they're in a car accident. Other than that, they don't care,
Yeah. Half my calls were, my insurance went up $12 this month or this 6 months. Like, yeah, it did.
Yep.
Well, everything else did too. Just, I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, and if you don't have the passion for it, you don't want to give an answer for it. That's really the key.
No,
right there.
And that's it translated in my performance eventually. I was able to fake it for a while, but toward the end, I just didn't care. It was
Mhm.
just, it was an absurd business. And again, not making fun of people in insurance. My dad did a really good. He loved it with all his heart. But that's just different passions, different energies, different
Different people.
directions.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like I stumbled across my job and what I do now, and like I said, there's never going to be another. I'm not doing anything else but this ever. This is it. There's no more changes. I might do more public speaking coming up. That I've talked to a
Mhm.
few of those people recently, but
Mhm.
the basis of what I'm doing is going to remain the same.
Which is really cool, and I'm loving
Yes.
that. I want to delve deeper into this idea of passion and finding passion, in part because, like you pointed out so delicately in the early years of the podcast, you and I talked about it virtually every week because that's what my biggest question was: how do I find my passion? And I think it's important to pursue it. There are a few things that I've picked up along the way that I like to pass along, and I don't think I have all of the answers where passion is concerned. I don't, but I do think I picked up a few along the way. And one of them is I have learned don't stop looking for it, even when you think you might have found it. Still don't look. Keep looking for it every day. And the only way I know how to do that is to keep trying things. Funny thing happens when you keep trying things. You learn, you grow, you get better, your life improves. Why? Because you're learning things. So the pursuit of the passion is actually the pursuit of your own growth.
Well, and that goes right along with the my perspective of passion and your journey. The illusion of a destination is what a lot of people get stuck on, and once you discover, at least for me, there's no such thing as a destination. There's just the passion and the pursuit of the passion and the renewing of the passion and the process of that. There's no place I'm ending up. I have fallen in love with the journey, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where the excitement is. I'm always pursuing excitement and passion and learning new stuff, and it's a great life. And when you view it that way, even when the little twists and turns don't seem to go your way, the journey is always surprising. And then there's a lady that passed away a few weeks ago, and she's the grandmother of one of my clients. And she is a very kind lady. And my client is an outstanding young man. And she got to see him go from, having a lot of issues to really being wildly successful.
Wow.
And he's
Fabulous.
great. And, she had a great mindset, and she was always encouraging him to follow. And so being to follow his journey, not to follow anything else, follow his
Right.
passion, and he's become, as I said, he's become very successful, and he has another mindset about that. So to see the lady pass away, so what would her destination have been? She ended up passing away in when I say a nursing facility, a very nice upscale facility,
Mm-hmm.
but nonetheless, she was there and she passed away. But you could either focus on, what was the point of the last several years of her life, but she also worked with her grandson. She saw him grow. She was able to help fund some of his stuff early and
Mm-hmm.
support him in a lot of ways. And so she was still actively pursuing her mission of helping her family until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
so when you're able to wake up every day and just look forward to that excitement, look forward to what's coming next, and that's sort of the ultimate gift, because that's what we were talking about, gifts in general. But the idea that you've got to keep perspective and toward gratitude and excitement, life can become very boring pretty quickly if you let it.
That's a very profound statement, that last one. It's not one that people would normally hang on to, that sequence of statements you made, but I think it really is a tie together.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Because when we look at it that way, what we begin to realize is that's another way of understanding what you just described a moment ago, that there's no ultimate end destination. I mean, I kind of think of life, you describe it as a journey, other people do too. I think of it as like a train trip. Like you're on the train and you end up at a station, and then you end up at the next station. And each one of those are destinations in a sense, and or milestones or things that happen along the way. But it's a train trip that just keeps going for the rest of your life. It just keeps going and going and going and going
Yes.
and going. And you just keep running into all these stations, and you get off at some of them, and you have, lunch with people, and all kinds of stuff happens along the way. And that's the fun part. But that's also the part that if you don't keep appreciating that, to use your term, the appreciation term, if you don't keep focusing on that being the great part, that's where it does become boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you're just kind of sitting on the train.
The I'm all you know I'm a big believer in hard work, effort, and drive. I believe in all that stuff. Uh, when it doesn't have meaning attached to it, it becomes very depressing.
Very.
So hard work, when you're passionate about something, is a gift. You love it. You're able to get up. I Most mornings, and this is not, I'm not trying to sell this concept to anybody. Most mornings I wake up ready to go. I'm excited about the day. I in my mind there's stuff I want to be doing. Some days there's stuff I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to do that too. But I'm still excited about getting the day started. I love when you get to a place where you sort of love life. All the You attract more things that you love, and so you're expecting that.
Well, let me propose something to you, because I think you used a really important term there, hard work. You said
Yes,
you used that term, and people talk about that a lot. I'm going to propose the idea that when you're pursuing something that you're fascinated by, that you're loving, there's nothing hard about it. To me, hard work is when you're doing something you don't like.
that's a good
When
point.
you're just dragging yourself through, just, oh God, I got to do another day of this. That's hard.
That's hard.
That's like 30 years hard labor. That's what that feels like to
And
me.
maybe maximum effort work. I
Okay,
like
that's good.
effort. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's
Because when you have a
certainly,
passion, it's easy to have max. You just
it
go
is.
for it. You don't have
Yeah,
to think about it.
yeah. I've talked about my workouts at the gym. I go hard. I
Yeah.
work as maximum effort every day, and it serves me well. The same, I don't, in work sometimes you can get like, especially after like 5 days in a row of 10-hour days, my brain's going, oh, you know, and then I remind myself, look, you can't ask for an abundance and then be provided the abundance and then get upset about how it was provided.
Well, you
So you have,
can, but the better response is to say, okay, what do I want instead?
yes,
Because a
yes.
lot of people don't do that. They just get upset about the fact they don't like the abundance that they're not getting, or the one they are getting that they didn't want. Either way you
Yeah.
want to look at it.
Yeah, well, and so all of this, but the basis, the premise of the original concept of gifts. That's how the show started, talking about
Right.
gifts. The journey is a gift. Your train ride is a gift. That's the
Mhm.
gift. That's the ultimate gift. What you do with that every day, to me, is what matters the most. It's the
Absolutely.
and and as you know, I take many side journeys in my little journey. I'm all over the place,
Hmm.
and the just some of the people in my orbit, they just roll their eyes all the time. It's like, what is about to happen? There's always something about to happen next, and we don't know what it's going to be.
I love how every once in a while you and I will be communicating. We got to put off a show this week. Something came up, or we're going to start 10 minutes late, or things like that. We have these conversations all the time. I love it whenever you're sharing with me something and you're saying, such and such happened, and it was one bad thing after another, and then I hear the sound in your voice as you're telling me, and you're not happy about bad things happening. I don't like to give that impression, but even when you're describing about bad things going on, you have this happiness in your voice, like, wow, I am privileged to be part of this journey.
It
Even though
is.
this terrible thing is going on right now, I know it's going to work out. I'm sure it's going to have a great ending to it. I don't know what it's going to be just yet. I can't wait. It's that kind of an attitude.
Yeah.
That's the
And,
best attitude to have.
and again, that's the sort of the origins, the beginnings when you and I first started talking. When I discovered that energy, and through the law of attraction, and when I know everything's going to work out. There's no point in my life right now, no matter what happens, it's just going to work out for the best. It's done that consistently forever now.
Mm.
So when you know that, it's I have one of those Mondays, and I'll say, yeah, and I do love Mondays, by the way, but Mondays often have some of the craziest things happen.
Mm.
And in fact, when we do the show tonight, it is Monday tonight, and when we do the show, like every now and then, yeah, 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late, I'll be there. And then, it'll be like, yeah, it was a Monday. And
Yep.
we'll joke about it, but it always ends up nicely.
Mm.
Even my worst days. And I had a client not too long ago go through a withdrawal from benzos in my office and have a seizure.
Oh, geez.
Um,
Yeah.
so that was on a Monday. And, fortunately, I knew exactly what was happening. He just told me he quit benzos without detoxing from them or tapering
Hmm.
down. So I
Hmm.
was able to call 911. I was able to instruct the 911 operator to go ahead and be prepared to give him benzos the moment he arrives. to be able to, interrupt this. So I was able to talk to the doctor that was at the ER that approved all that. So the moment they walk in, they didn't have to triage anything. They just gave him a shot of benzos and saved his life. And it was, and so while that was terrifying, it was also, I was able to take advantage of my knowledge of what I've done.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. I understand that now. So it was something that was just, it was terrifying for the moment, but I always knew it was going to work out okay. I kept him, I kept him still. I kept him safe, and I knew they were there, amazing people. They were there within 4 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, just fantastic. And they just walked right in. And the doctor called me later. He goes, if everybody could do what you did, it was, and he didn't even want to go to the hospital. They made him go to the hospital, but he was like, I'm good, and the doctor was just excited because we bypassed them having to discover what was going on.
Right.
And we were just able to get right to it. So while that sounds like a horrifying story to go through, it was pretty rewarding at the end that we were able to save his life and with no damage whatsoever.
Which is fantastic.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic. And it's also what happens when you're doing what you're passionate about.
Yes.
Good things happen to people who are doing what they enjoy.
Absolutely. The right people show up, the right situations show up. It's all there.
Yeah. Now, there's an interesting twist to that, which is that good things happen to people who enjoy what they're doing, but other people don't necessarily see what they're experiencing as good. Because different people have, like, there are going to be some people who will hear that story and they'll say, "Oh, the poor kid almost died." That's certainly a valid perception that people can have about that particular story.
Sure.
Different from your perception, but still a particularly an especially valid viewpoint. Look how different the viewpoints are, though, and how they relate to the perspective of the person who has them. In your case, because we know what your perspective. You're a very positive person. You have so many positive things that have developed in your life because of your life story, and you've been through hell certainly with your life, but you took all of that and you just turned it, sometimes to your amazement, you turned it into something amazing. Literally, your life is amazing. You've said that numerous times here on the show. So you're a living example of somebody who literally things work out all the time because he expects they're going to work out all the time.
It's funny when you were describing that. There was never a moment I thought this young man was going to die. There was never didn't even, you know what I'm saying? It's funny you say that because I'm like, no, I didn't even. That was not an equation. That was not in the equation.
Right.
That was not in the equation. It was, I just got to get the information. We'll get the people here. He's safe. He was having a seizure. He wasn't hitting anything. He wasn't choking. And, I've stayed on the phone walked them through the whole process. And the EMT guy just showed up, did exactly what they were told to do. And boom. And so, but never did I contemplate this guy's going to die. That wasn't an option in my brain.
So let's go back to the original topic, because the original topic is gifts. And the reason I want to tie in at this particular point is to point out that we can identify gifts in a lot of different ways. We can say that's God's gift to this person, and that's fine. But we can also, I think, equally say that gifts are whatever we choose to make into gifts.
Absolutely.
So does it really matter which way it comes?
Well, when you look at it from that way, it's sort of like everything else. You can get stuck on the details, or you can just simply accept their gifts, how they get there.
Yeah.
And so many people want to have to define it really accurately, and this happens or that happens. I believe we're all given opportunities is maybe a better word than gifts.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
Yeah. We're given, you're born into opportunity. And people say, well, that's not fair. Everybody's not born in the same. I agree.
Yeah.
But they're not born into the same opportunity. But life is going to always offer opportunities when you're looking at it that way. And what you do with those opportunities probably can eventually become considered gifts.
That's a fair assumption, or a fair statement, I should say. And I love it. I think it's a great way of describing it.
Yeah. And that's what I look at. When people automatically like, well, I was born with no, my family had no money, or I was born poor and I was born this. And, those are all things that are accurate. But that doesn't mean there's not options, but a lot of times people will shut those off. Well, because I don't have it as good as this person had it.
Mm.
You know, the most successful people I personally know either came from nothing or they lost everything to zero and then built amazing stuff after that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the people that, and I know a lot of very, very successful people that, you know, were handed down money and all that. And, you know, nobody's going to turn down all that lifestyle, but they often are the ones that are perceived, you know, they perceive they have the worst life of anybody because it's lacking the purpose and passion we talked about in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes wealth can rob you of even identifying your gifts. I know some very talented people that have a trust fund that keeps them from doing anything. It doesn't really keep them from doing anything.
But in your mind it does.
They have, you know, not, this statement isn't true for me now, but there was a time if I didn't get them to go to work, the light bill's not going to get paid. You know, there was a necessity to getting up and go to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, there was a necessary event in that. And I needed that. There was times I need to get up to go to work. I really did. I mean that. It was good. And when I see that people lack agency, they lack need. There's an old statement, you know, I heard this one billionaire guy, this is not his quote, but he uses it all the time with his kids. He said, "I apologize for robbing you of your poverty. I ruined you."
Wow. Yeah. That's really interesting and profound because you've mentioned a few things here on the show and told me stuff privately off the show that really reinforced for me what a challenge it is for somebody who's a trust fund baby. I mean, most of us don't think of that as a challenge. Most of us think of that as a gift, as a wonderful gift. But the more I hear about it, the more I realize those kids have like the biggest challenge anyone could possibly face because they don't have challenges.
They don't have challenges. They don't have a need to do. So when you're 25 and you have access to $50,000 every month for no matter what, you're fine. You go live it up big. You get to go do a bunch of tequila shooters, drive it around on boats and, you know, Siesta Key, Florida, or wherever your beautiful, you know, Anna Maria Island, and you can live that lifestyle. Then eventually you're like, okay, that's not sustainable. That's not even fun anymore.
Right.
And then later when you're in your 30s and you again, you're at home all day with nothing to do. There's no point of you having to figure anything out. Your brain there's anxiety, often anxiety attached to that because, again, a lack of anything to do. The brain's looking for something to worry about, so they get focused on minutia, not having something somebody else has, or worried about the guy across town has the new Bentley, and I only have a 3-year-old Lamborghini. You know?
Yeah, it's rough, but you know, it's a big deal that that's the only thing you have to compare it to.
Yeah, and it's just so they get stuck in that. So you know, very few people, but there are a few. I've seen some people, they didn't give up their trust fund, but they broke away from the concept, and they went to work and they did stuff and they did great things. But people have a need, the idea of working with energy, working for a purpose, building something. Everything I have, as you know, and this people sometimes perceive this as an arrogant statement. There is nothing that I possess today that I did not earn myself. Nobody gave it to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's self-esteem attached to that. There's energy attached to that.
Sure.
And I'm proud of that. It's not, you know, and I'm not being critical of anyone. You know, a lot of people, I don't want anybody to have to go through what I went through. I did the other side a little extreme, but the idea that I feel I'm a stronger, clear-headed person because of that, I continue doing what I'm doing. The question, you know, every year we're having that meeting again. I'm with my financial people, and you know, every year the same young man's going to ask, "Mr. Elston, I ask you this every year, but why are you still working?"
Yeah,
he asks me that every year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how you know that another year is up. So I mean, there's that.
Yeah, that's our annual. It's a joke now, but you know, at some point, like, did I die? Then I'll retire then. But you know, there's new things out there. There's, you know, this upcoming, and I know there's a narrative, and I'm not, you know, I'm sorry to violate somebody's narrative. 2024 has been an incredible year for me.
Mm.
And I'm going to make the early prediction again, a couple months early. 2025 is even going to be better because I'm in charge of that. there's another narrative that some other things might be. It's not true.
This is where what we talked about earlier really comes to the fore, because we mentioned how people, especially with gifts, we talked about how people would compare their own gifts to somebody else's gift, and well, they're more gifted than I am. They're more beautiful. They're stronger. They have more money. They have better contacts. They have, fill in the blank.
Sure.
That's a pretty troublesome trap to be in.
Yes.
And as we've been hearing from what you've been describing, what we've both been describing, really, you don't have to stay in that space. But I still keep going back to those trust fund babies. I still keep coming back to. I get that there are going to be some who are trying to find a way to create problems in their own lives, and so they go after the minutiae, just the way you were describing. To me, the fascinating ones are the ones who find purpose despite having the trust fund.
They're the special ones, yes.
That's really special. That's the one I'd like to learn more about, because they don't have those traumatic trials that other people have, and that they find a way to find their passion. Can you give insights on how they do that?
A lot of this sort of they come to it through introspection. Most of these people, and again, these are very generalized terms.
Sure.
Right? So, but when you have exposure to that, you often experience addiction and mental illness or anxiety early in life. They have access to everything, and you can get your hands on everything. So a lot of them have some awakenings. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to wake up and there's usually, even within that great wealth, there's usually a catalyst. Like, I am sick of waking up at 1 o'clock every afternoon in my own vomit.
Oh, okay.
That's motivating to not do that anymore.
So there's a small amount of trauma going on there, which counts.
Yeah, it counts. And now yes, it's because there's almost that, I am tired of this. I don't want to live a life where I feel like everybody is, they don't live. I know people that have all this, they don't leave their houses. They don't, and it's almost a prison that they've created themselves because of this. And the ones that break through it get tired of that. And then they go say, I'm going to go do something more. I'm going to go beyond that.
That's really something. So what it sounds to me is that even people who, by most other people's standards, would be considered privileged, they still end up finding ways to basically trap themselves and then climb out of the trap.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
for some of them, it's really, one guy's theory is, he said, I've realized, he said, I did not do it on purpose, but I can see where I started using, and he started with lighter drugs and got heavier drugs. And when he finally got to the point, he said, enough. And he said, so his theory is, what if I set myself up to experience this only to say, this is my only way to break out of it. I gotta break out of it. It's the catalyst. So he sort of looks at it more philosophically, that he subconsciously was sabotaging his life so he would be forced to break out of it.
It's a great theory. Yeah. And quite supported by the facts, I would say. So.
Yeah, there's a lot to say with that. So it's a fascinating group to work with. Yeah. It's also, when people hear that, everybody believes, like, I'm have an abundance, I have a great life. I don't want to be that level. That level's it brings a lot of problems. So
point of view. That's not a viewpoint you hear very often either.
Yeah, because I get to see the other side of it, but no, I have there's nothing I can't have. I have everything I want. So you don't need more than everything you need. So I'm not seeking that gigantic, $1 billion net worth kind of thing. That's not what my goal is.
Right.
Even though a few more days of Bitcoin going up like it is, we might be there. Just like
You heard it here first. The man is invested in Bitcoin and he's climbing high.
Yeah, it's like every wow. I hope you guys got into Bitcoin along the way. It's fascinating right now.
It is a fascinating thing, no doubt about it. I think what's even more fascinating, though, is we managed to take a topic that is seemingly mundane on the surface, and there is depth to this. There's a lot of depth here.
Yes, I agree.
Because gifts, I think gifts are one of those things we kind of take for granted most of the time, except when somebody is coming along and saying, well, you should be using that gift some more. We get that. But other than that, most of the time, we don't really pay attention to them. And whether we think about them as gifts that are given from on high, or gifts that we develop because we chose to develop them out of a passion, or however we decide to think about them, we still tend to take them for granted. We still tend
Absolutely.
to kind of, treat them like they're not really worthy of a lot of attention.
One of my morning routines is, and this falls into the gratitude category for me. I never want to take anything, including my guests, for granted, ever.
Mhm.
I remind myself every day, where I'm at, how fortunate where I am to be at, and I need to do that. That is a morning routine ritual of mine, part of my gratitude list.
I think there's another aspect to it as well, but with that gratitude list. And I'll tie it back to my own situation with my height, 6'8", pretty tall. Most people aren't anywhere near that tall. And for me, a large part of my life, that height was not a benefit in my own mind.
Right.
In my mind, that height was, it kind of kept me from the rest of society. It was like a boundary that kept me away from everybody else. It's only in the last few years that I've come to accept that, even though I didn't really want to become an NBA basketball player or utilize the height in some way for a career or something along that line, that I can still appreciate it, even though in the past I thought it was a hindrance, even though I felt like it held me back. And by appreciating it, by learning how to appreciate it, and by the way, the easiest way I found to appreciate it is to appreciate it through the eyes of others, because other people appreciate it. I get that every day. I can't go to the store without somebody appreciating it. I can't go to the store without some 3-year-old saying, "Mommy, he's tall. Look at him." So it's there all the time. That's the way I've learned to appreciate it. I
Sure.
don't really appreciate it in terms of what it does for me. I appreciate it in terms of how other people see it.
And at the end of the day, I have, family members that are short. I have family members that, uh, you know, they complain a lot about being short, or,
Mhm.
and so when you look at it, it's all perspective based.
It is.
At the end of the day, how you reconcile all of this, and you're responsible for your happiness. And
Right.
no matter if you view your 6'8" as a gift or a curse, your
Yeah.
happiness is not dependent on either of those things. It's your perspective that we get to do.
Yes.
And that's life. That's the beauty of it. And I see people that every day they go out and they fail to see what's right. They fail to see that it's like focused on, well, this got lost or this got like, and I'm not judging people. People can do whatever they want to do, but we live. When you realize you're here for a very short period of time. The ultimate gift is waking up every day. The ultimate gift is having this journey, this ride. That's where the value is. When it's done, this life comes to an end. My energy will go on. My belief system has my energy going to another place. But this one specific life will open. I want to make sure nobody will ever doubt he squeezed everything he possibly could out of this life.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reminded of Neil Donald Walsh. And for those who don't know who that is, he is the author of a series of books called Conversations with God. He was also one of the presenters in the movie The Secret, in the book, which you hand out to thousands of people every year from your
Yes,
office.
yes.
And one of the things that he says in The Secret has stuck with me since I first saw the movie and then later read the book. I, I, I just keep remembering it. It's a picture of an old-fashioned schoolroom blackboard. And on the blackboard, it says, Neil Donald Walsh. And because he has to throw a little bit of ego in, he says, a handsome guy who, and then there's a line. And that line is where God has inserted what your purpose in life is.
Yes.
And then he says, but there's no blackboard in the sky. So your purpose is what you say it is.
Yes.
And isn't that the essence of what we've been talking about here? Regardless of whether you think about it as God giving it to you or not, what are you choosing I mean, I didn't choose to make my height my gift. I chose other things to be my gifts. Whether
One
or
of
not somebody else said they were mine, I said, those are the ones I really like. Those are the ones I'm going to go after. I made them my gifts.
one of the, and I love that, by the way. Yes, you're right. There's a story of this gentleman. His daughter contracted or developed, I don't know what term you'd use, one of the rarest forms of cancer. I can't say it, it's too big of a word, but it's a
Mhm.
very rare form of cancer. probably 10 people a year in the world get it.
Wow.
It's fatal.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do.
Invariably.
So this guy, as he was watching his daughter deteriorate, and there was nothing they could do.
Right.
And that's a horrible thing to happen as a dad, to not be able to help with that. So when she passed away, he was 43, and he quit his job. He went back to school, eventually got into medical school and research, and he went to work and developed a cure for this disease.
Did he really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Oh
developed
my
a cure.
God.
So there was no money involved with it, but there's
Didn't matter.
10 people a year in the world that will not die anymore because of this guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
legacy.
Yeah. And what, people go, well, I mean, yeah, but, and he didn't do anything else with his degree. He didn't do other research. He just did that.
He just did the one that was his
Yeah.
gift. Yeah.
Yeah. And he sold the patent for, he took after the vaccine guy, Salk or whatever. He sold the patent for $1, with the agreement that nobody could ever sell it. Anybody that needs this will get it for free.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, so when you look at that, that's a purpose. And that didn't come till late. It came at great expense, but what a life well lived.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And what a gift he gave to humanity.
Yes. Yeah. And because no pharmaceutical company or drug company was going to look into this because there's not enough money to do it.
No, there's no way that would ever happen. But he figured it out. Wow, that gives me chills.
Yeah.
It really does.
I mean, it's an amazing thing. He said, okay, so that gets back to that ability to take something and you can turn the absolute worst stuff in the world, you can turn it into a purpose and a passion. And for the rest of eternity, every year on average, 10 people will contract this and 10 people won't die forever because of this one man.
That's wow. One of the things I don't get to do very much with you because we don't have guests on the segments you and I do, but I have guests on the other Monday show and on the Wednesday show. And one of the things that I make it a practice to do with them is every time the guest comes on, I say, on behalf of those people you've never met, never seen, never will meet, never will see, who you've impacted in ways that you don't even know about, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing because you're making a difference. Boy, I'd love to be able to say it to that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to say I love saying it to all of the people who come onto the show, but I would really love to say it to him. What a wonderful gift.
And no fanfare. He never played it up. He just went out and did. It's like he took having lost a child, there's nothing worse.
Absolutely.
There's absolutely nothing worse. So your response to that, there's nothing more honorable. There's nothing when you do that. Those are the stories. And the only reason I even know about this is a friend of his told me about it. He's been asked to write a book. He wants none of that.
Yeah.
He wants none of it. He said, I didn't do it for all that. I did it because something took my kid and I was going to make sure it never took another kid.
Boy, that's just, we often talk about how it is so easy to get stuck, how it is so easy to find reasons to stay stuck. But if you hear a story like that, doesn't that kind of give you a pause and say, maybe I can become unstuck? Maybe it's actually worthwhile for me to take some steps. Maybe I won't cure a disease that's going to kill 10 people a year otherwise, but man, if he can do that.
Well, that's why I like that story. That's why I like stories like that. There's a reason that you can make a reason to get up. You can develop it. The worst life. Viktor Frankl is someone who did that. I love Viktor Frankl. Went through ungodly stuff and eventually, became very renowned and helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
And his perspective really just helped usher in a lot of healing for a lot of people over the years. And if you don't know Viktor Frankl's story, I'm not going to tell you about it. Just look him up. He's amazing. And the idea that there's those people. So anybody that feels you're stuck and you can't move, that's just that's that thinking that has you trapped. There is nothing that we can't do, and I'm becoming more and more convinced of that. Now, like you said earlier, there's a lot of stuff I don't want to do that I
Sure,
could do.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because like somebody, my friend Dr. Master, before he passed away several years ago, he said, and I was, wasn't. This has been probably 10 years ago. He told me this. He goes, Joel, you should just consider going back to school and become a psychiatrist. You'd be so great at it. And I said, I'm not going back to school. I'm not doing that. It's not worth it. It's not, and I really don't think I could have because my ADHD or desire, but nonetheless, I still operate in that field. I'm still able to affect people in a way. So there's always that chance that there's always that possibility. And if you really look at life as these opportunities, or sometimes they're tragedies, but the opportunity on the other side of tragedies is often growth. And that's not a message that sells real well right now too. A lot of times there's a lot of people that don't like that message.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. And this is one of those times where you have to kind of have grace and just say, okay, they're not ready to hear it now, and that's fine. They'll be ready when they're ready. And
yeah, absolutely. And it's just, we live in times right now where with access to everything, and there's people that are a lot of people are conditioned to look for things to be triggered about. And that's unfortunately that's where we're at right now, but that's not the overall thing. In my world, I see amazing things every day. I see victory. I see people overcoming. And I'm just fascinated by the human spirit. And it never, when everybody says, well, times are getting bad, like I said earlier, 2024 has been an amazing year for me. 2025 will be even better, and this cycle will repeat till this body quits working.
There you go. I love it. Yeah. Well, once again, we took a topic we had no idea what was going to happen. We turned it into something. Wow, I didn't expect this one at all. This is good. So thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it.
Fantastic, buddy.
And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. See you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye.
See you later.